Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here with my review for Toy Story 4. As the title says, there will be spoilers in this review, but they'll be in the second half, so you guys will get a spoiler warning when that happens. Just to start off, this was a good movie. It was a good fourth movie. Also, you should know this ahead of time because I screwed up. I didn't do this. There are post-credit sequences. I didn't say. This is like the one movie I haven't stayed for in like a million years. I didn't check because I was with somebody, so it wasn't on my mind. Normally, the first thing on my mind is like, all right, I'm going to leave, but let me just Google it. Does this movie have a post-credit sequence? It's got like four, apparently. I saw the first one because they do like the special credits, and then they do one, and then the regular credits show up. And I was like, okay. And we left, and that was it. And it just didn't occur to me to be like, does this have a post-credit sequence? Just because it's Disney based, so thanks to Marvel, it's always you got to check. Even when it's non-Marvel movies, I check now because of Marvel. And it's like the one time I didn't check, and it's got like 4 extra scenes in the credits. So if you haven't seen it yet, be sure to stay. So there's that. Like, fortunately, I like the movie, so I wouldn't mind seeing it again. Like, I might take my little cousins to see it, and then I'll just be like, all right, well, here's my chance to see it. But I missed the extra couple of post-credit sequences, so be sure that you don't miss it. If you haven't seen the movie yet, you can stay for the credits and you'll get like 4 extra scenes or something like that. But wanted to put that like right at the top because I totally screwed up and I missed it, and I was super mad when I found out that that was a thing. That was like not just one post-credit sequence, but they do like a bunch, like some Guardians of the Galaxy type stuff where it's just a bunch in the credits. So it's like, that sucks. I missed a bunch of extra content. So just wanted to put that out there so you guys know if you haven't seen the movie. But the movie itself, really, really entertaining. I really enjoyed it. It didn't make me cry. I'll say that off the top as well. It had some parts that, I had like one single tear the whole time because like towards the end, they got a couple of points where it's like, it's emotional and it's like a couple of different emotional beats. And they're close enough together, right? I can definitely understand if some people cried because I was like, okay, I could definitely see how it would make people cry. But for me personally, it didn't hit me like Toy Story 3 was, where it was like, the first time, there's 2 parts in that movie. Like when you think they're going to kill all the main characters off in the movie, it's like, that's super sad because it's like, this is it. That's game over, and they just kind of have to accept that they're about to die. And then after that, the stuff with Andy giving his toys to Bonnie, it's like, oh, that's like something you can truly connect to because everyone, you have that grow up moment. So, it didn't hit me like those 2 moments where it was like super duper personal, but they definitely got some good moments in here that will probably make some people cry. Like I know there are reviews out there where people mention they definitely cried. For me, it was just like, okay, welled up a bit, but I didn't, really full on cry. But definitely love the movie. It was definitely funny. I'd have to watch the other ones. It's been a minute, but I felt like I laughed more with this one than I did the other ones. Kind of like in succession, at least I felt like the jokes were kind of closer together, and they never bothered me. I just thought they were really funny, and I just felt like I got that more from this movie than I did from some of the other movies. And it's probably due to Forky because Forky's such a funny character where it's like he doesn't understand why he's there, and he's like, when he's first introduced, basically like the next 10 minutes is just like him freaking out and stuff. So it's pretty entertaining, and then even after that, just Woody's journey throughout this leads to some pretty entertaining stuff. Of course, you have some creepier moments. They have the dummies in there. So those are very interesting. So I like how that was handled. I thought that was pretty cool. But all in all, the characters are entertaining. The new characters are good. You got like the bunny and the bird that are like stitched together, and that's Key and Peele. So they definitely have like this. They have the on running joke that's probably like one of the funniest things in the movie, especially towards the end. But everything's really funny in this, and I like the new characters. I like what they do with some of the old characters because admittedly, that's like the biggest thing with this movie. You don't really see much of the other characters. This is mostly like Woody's movie. Like it's Woody is in there. Of course, Buzz being like the second most important character, Buzz is in there, and the other characters are there. But for the most part, they aren't really like on this journey. It's not like 3. Like 3, I would say, was the best one as far as like this is the story of all the toys. 3 is the best one for that because the first one was of course Woody and Buzz. The second one really was mostly focused on Woody as well, and then Buzz had his side story as the toys went on the journey to rescue Woody, and then 3 was just all the toys together going to daycare and stuff. And this was definitely like, okay, you guys exist, that's cool, but this is about Woody. This is Woody's story. The first 3 movies were about Andy's toys and then that progression, and then this 4th movie is specifically about the main toy of the series, which is Woody. So Woody's like the main focus. Bo Peep, of course, returning to the series is probably like the second most important character. So it's more around like Woody, Bo Peep, and Forky, and the characters that they interact with more than anybody else. But you get to see everyone have like a little moment here and there, like they talk and stuff in the beginning of the movie. The toys are all together still, so you see everybody, but they don't really get as much play as they did in any of the other movies. Really, it's mostly like this is Woody's journey, and of course Bo Peep coming back. We see a ton of her because she was only in like the first 2 movies. So definitely not what you might expect as far as like, oh, here's all the toys again and coming back. It's like, here's all the toys, but mostly Woody. And that's pretty much how it is. And I didn't hate the movie for that. I think it still works perfectly fine. And it kind of fits as far as the context of what this story is telling. I think it makes sense to really focus on Woody because it's truly his journey. So I was totally fine with that. But definitely funny. Definitely had the heartfelt moments. They do some good stuff with the villain, like the dummy and the old dolls, which I believe her name was like Hey Gabby Gabby. She's an old toy, just like Woody. Like they're both made like in the '60s or whatever. So it was pretty interesting some of the stuff they do there. But it was really well done. It was like super creepy, and I was like, I like how this is playing out. Like it was just creepy. Like it's definitely as creepy as you might expect. It's not like horror movie scary, but it's definitely creepy enough. It'll freak out kids because there was a kid, and my friend, she was sitting next to the family, and she said like the little boy was freaking out and stuff, and she said that his mom was like, cover your eyes, and he was covering his eyes, and then he was like, you cover my eyes. So he was like really freaked out by the dolls because they look creepy. They look like the doll from Goosebumps. They look like the Night of the Living Dummy. So they're creepy looking. But it was definitely well done. I like the way that they utilize them. Like they actually don't speak because they're dummies, so it's supposed to be like with their hands. So the stuff they do with them is pretty entertaining because with them being alive, it's like, okay, toys don't move on their own, but there's still some elements of how they're made, like the way that they move around and stuff. It's really interesting. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like all sorts of things can come to life. Like Forky's a great example. He's literally just like made by Bonnie, but you have these dummies, and it's like obviously dummies move in a very particular way, so they have like certain controls, certain things that they can't control perfectly, and you see that in the movie. So I was like, I kind of like that. I thought that was cool. But all in all, really good movie. I feel like there's not much else I can say without getting into my spoiler stuff. So I would say go check it out. Be sure to stay for like the 4 credit sequences so you don't miss out like I did, because it's driving me crazy now because I'm like, I always stay for that. This is like the one time I don't do it, and I missed like 3 extra scenes. It's not like I just missed one. I missed like 3 or 4 extra scenes. So I was just like, man, it's just driving me crazy. It's like the one time I don't. So be sure to stay after the post credit sequence or after the movie and just watch all the way through the credits, and you get some extra scenes. But definitely a good movie, so I highly recommend it. I think that they did a good job because, of course, with 3, you would think, okay, that's over. I didn't think they were ever going to make another movie. They did, I think they did 2 shorts before this came out. I know they did one where the kids, or where the toys go to like, they're like at some motel or something, like the family's on a road trip or whatever. I was like, okay, they're just going to have a couple of shorts, and then, I thought that was it. I thought that was going to be the end of Toy Story. It was like, here's like a couple of mini adventures of them with Bonnie, and just seeing like little stuff here and there, not a big full scale story. I never expected them to actually do 4. I don't think anyone did, especially with how they ended 3, where it's like they get transitioned from Andy, the main kid, to Bonnie, a new kid. So I don't think anyone expected them to actually do a full on movie. I didn't even think they would do shorts, but I was like, shorts make sense. You just get like a little 20-minute, 30-minute clip, and they're just in one location, no big dramatic thing. It's just like, oh man, somebody fell here or fell there, and then they play, and they do their thing, and it's funny. But yeah, I think they did a good job for it to be a 4th movie. They also bring back another character from one of the shorts, actually. I won't say which one. So if you've seen the short where they're like in the hotel or whatever, you'll recognize one of the characters. I was like, oh, that's cool. They brought that person back. Just because there's a lot of stuff that goes with that character, and I just always thought it was super funny. But I was like, that's pretty cool. I didn't think they would, bring back that reference, which they technically made the character from a short, and then they brought them into the movie. So I was happy with that. I was like, that's pretty cool. I enjoyed that. But all in all, good movie. Definitely check it out. It goes in line with all the other good Toy Story movies. If I had to rank it, it's hard to say because it's been so long since I've seen any of the other movies. You got the first one. I think for me personally, I always thought 2 was my least favorite. I think it has, overall, it probably does have like the most intense story where it's about like the history of Woody and choosing where you belong versus where you want to be, or like what you're supposed to be with versus who you want to be with, stuff like that. So that in 3, I think probably do technically have like the best stories, but I don't know, I think 2 might be my least favorite still, and so this would probably be, I think it would be, like I said, it's been so long, so I don't know if I would put 1 above 3 or not. Like I said, I'd have to rewatch them, but it's so hard to tell. Like none of the movies are bad, so it's not like I'm like, oh well, that one I just didn't like that much. Like they're all really great movies, so it's like I think 2 is still my least favorite. Like even when 2 first came out, I was like, I don't know if I like this as much, and I think it just wasn't as funny and stuff like that to me, so I didn't enjoy it as much. So 2 would probably still be my least favorite, and then I would probably put maybe the first one, and then this one, and then 3 would probably still be my favorite one. But I'd have to rewatch them. But it's just this thing. Like, it doesn't even matter what order you put them in. All the movies are great. I think this still fits in line. I don't think they'll make a fifth one, but I also didn't think they'd make a fourth one. So if they can make it work, that would be interesting, especially with the way this movie ends. But I think this one is even somehow, when with the story actually playing out, it's like I think this one is more final than the last one was, and that seemed like that was officially it. And now it's like, well, it would almost be like kind of crazy to even make another one because it would be kind of ridiculous how they would even do the story and it even makes sense. But those are my thoughts on it. So definitely let me know what you guys thought about it. So we're going to get officially into spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, go check it out, then come back and let me know what you thought about it. But getting right into the spoilers, of course, always going to start with the ending. The main reason I don't think there could be a fifth movie without it being like super weird and contrived, where it's like, oh, the amazing coincidences. Of course, the end of this movie is Woody deciding that he's not going to go back with his friends and he's going to actually stay with Bo Peep because he loves her and stuff. And I was surprised they didn't kiss. I thought that they were going to do that because they kiss in like the very first movie. So I was really surprised that they don't put like, a romantic loving kiss at the end of the movie, because I was like, they've totally kissed before. Like, they make out like crazy in, I think it was like the end of the first movie, and he's got like a bunch of kisses and stuff all over him. So I was really surprised that never actually happened, because I'm like, they totally did that in the first movie and it's just a kiss. It's not like they're doing it. I was like, it would just be a kiss. So I was really surprised by that. But yeah, I was like, man, it ends, and like I love the way they do it, where it kind of goes back to the beginning of the movie, where she's like, toys get lost all the time, and it's like he could join her, but of course he hears Andy, and Andy freaks out, like, where's Woody? Where's Woody? So he's like, man, I can't, as much as he wants to stay with Bo Peep. He's just like, I can't. So I like the way that was handled, and then of course, at the end, they do the same thing where like his fingers are hanging over the little rail of the carousel, and he ends up talking to Buzz, and Buzz is like, she'll be okay, and he says like, Bonnie's gonna be okay, and so Woody leaves, or Woody stays behind, I guess, and the rest of the toys end up leaving. And it's like, that's how things are, because Bonnie didn't really care much for Woody, and I'm sure at some point she'd be like, oh, what happened to Woody? Whatever. And of course she was playing with Jesse anyway, like she would take the sheriff star off and all that stuff. So it made sense. I was like, this is a good way to end it. And I think, like I said, with 3 it seemed final. It would just be like, somehow they found their way back and all this other stuff, and it would just be like, oh, the coincidences would just be too great for them to go into like a fifth movie. I could see them doing it, because it's not like they don't have the ability to process like technology and stuff. Like, they use computers and GPS and stuff in this movie and in the last one. So it's stuff they're familiar with, like current technology. It's not like they couldn't just GPS where they are, stuff like that. But it'd just be crazy. Like, it would take them so long as toys to get back to the town, or whatever. So I don't think we'll get another movie, and that's probably some of the stuff that they did with the shorts, whatever the post-credit sequences were, where it's like, here's just some little adventures and stuff, which I assume all take place after the main story, and instead of doing another movie, it's just like, here's a little update as time progressed. I don't think it went until like Bonnie was an adult, and then that they ended, which would be really interesting. I'd hate if that's what it was and I missed that. But I'm sure they shows a couple things here and there, like what the toys are up to and how they deal with Woody being gone and stuff like that. But it was cool. I was like, all right, this would kind of have to be the end, outside of, like I said, insane coincidences where they run into them and stuff like that, or they take the time to like Google Maps all the way back home and somehow they get there. I mean, it would take them like over a month to do. I mean, they're tiny, so it would take them a million years, even if they had the little skunk car. It's not going to go that fast. Although it does seem like it. It seemed like they hotwired that junk to go at like 100 miles per hour. But it was still good. It was still good, and I think it was more of a definitive ending, potentially. So we'll see. But I think this is kind of like, once the main character leaves, the rest of the team behind, it's like, all right, that's it. They go off and do their thing to help Carnival Toys get won by children and stuff like that, which I thought was really cool. It's like a cool little. It's almost like a Robin Hood type thing, a little bit, even though that's kind of the point of the carnival games, is for kids to win, but they're all rigged anyway, so the kids can never win. But I thought it was really cool. I was like, okay, they team up, and they're just, hitting the thing and just tossing other toys up, like, here you guys go, and we'll help you guys get to, families and stuff like that. So I thought that was actually really cool. I was like, that's a cool little, like, adventure, like, a little team up for them, like Woody and Bo Peep and Bird and Bunny. So I thought that was awesome, and the little I forgot what the little Polly Pocket character, which was super funny. Like that was so funny to me when she like first showed up and was like, "I'll be right down," and she like goes down her tiny steps and then gets on the motorcycle and goes like a quarter circle around. It's like, all right, what do we got? And I was like, she's funny. Well, she's super funny. I love that the introduction of her character. Her whole character was just super funny, and it was a good thing she didn't die when the cat swallowed her. Because I was like, holy crap, they can, like, once that moment happened, I was like, oh man, they're getting, like, super dark in this movie. Like, people are, like, dying in the movie. Because they tease it a little bit with the cat, where he, like, split someone in half, but then we see the other half of that person, or, of that toy. I was like, oh, he's totally fine. He just got split in half. And then in that scene, she just gets swallowed whole, and I was like, oh man, this is it. Like, this junk is, like, the super dark scene of the movie. But then he got spit up. It was still the emotional moment, but she didn't, like, actually get swallowed, and that was it. And I was like, okay, because for a second there I was like, oh, they're pushing the limits. They're killing off toys like in the moment, which I think they've done before. If I remember right, they did kill the dude from the second movie, the prospector. But I can't remember. I feel like they killed him because I feel like he got eaten. I feel like he got eaten by a cat or like something. I think ate him or like ripped him to pieces, and he did end up getting killed in that movie. And I think the same thing. No, they didn't kill what's his name in the last movie. He ended up getting picked up and put on the front of a truck. But yeah, that was a crazy little scene. I was like, oh, okay, she's cool, everything's fine. But really enjoyed that. But like I said, I love the ending. I like the villain for this, like Yo Gabby Gabby or whatever her name was. That's probably not it because I'm thinking Hey Gabba Gabba. But I think that maybe that was a reference to that because it was like Yo Gabby Gabby or something like that. So maybe that was a reference. But I loved her character. Like they first introduce it and like when she sees Woody, she sees like, oh, he's got a pull string, which means he's an old toy because toys aren't made that way anymore. So she was like, oh, he's got a pull string. He's like me. So then she talks to him, is like, oh, when were you made and stuff like that. And they have the dummy walking and he like tries to pull the string and he misses the first time. And Woody's like, what are you doing? And so I thought that was a really cool, like creepy scene that she talks to him and is like, oh, I was made like the same time too. Like maybe we were made in the same factory. That'd be crazy. And she talks about how her record is fine, but the voice box itself is messed up. And so she's like, oh, that'd be really cool. And they're talking about like ripping Woody open and stuff. And it was just crazy. I was like, man, that's insane. And that was another thing when they actually do take his voice box, they took the string off. Like you see him stitched up. He doesn't even have his string anymore. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. It's something that I never really thought of, but it's like he doesn't have his pull string anymore. He can't, do the whole snake in the boot thing. So I thought that was really interesting. I was like, wow. And that was probably why they had him do that so much in the movie because I feel like he's done that. I think they do it like once per movie, maybe. But in this one, I felt like they had his string pulled like a couple of times. Like this is the last time you'll ever hear these quotes from Woody because that junk is dead. Like he is gone, his thing is taken, and she puts her record in, and now she's good. And of course, he doesn't end up taking it back unless that's in one of the credit sequences. But I thought that was interesting. I was like, oh wow, that's like a weird thing. Like he's totally stitched up and he doesn't have his string anymore. Which they utilized in the movie in the very beginning with RC and stuff. And actually, they don't have him like do the same when his string like gets pulled back because they've done that in other movies where he'll use his string to like stretch further or do something else, but every time it pulls back, like his record goes off. So that just occurred to me like, oh, they didn't have that when it was playing like in the rain and stuff. But yeah, it was definitely cool. I was like, I like her as a villain, and then it gets super sympathetic at the end where it's like, all right, like I just got to get Forky back to Bonnie because it's so important to her, and that's that's like Woody's whole directive, like you fight for the kids, that sort of thing. So it's like I'll trade you my voice box for Forky, and that'll be all there is to it. And then as they're finally about to escape, it's like Forky pauses because it's like, oh, this is the moment, like this is what she's been fighting for this whole time, and he's like, oh, it's about to happen. And then it's depressing because of course you have this girl who's like, oh wow, and her grandmother's like, you can take it if you want, and she's like, meh, and she just tosses it. And I love the way they do it where it's just like in slow motion and she just falls into like this dark wooden box and she's just stuck there, and it's like, well, that's a little left up, but also kind of what you might expect because the girl wasn't really that young. So I thought that was interesting. And then it was like, Woody's like, crap, Woody being Woody is like, well, he's the good guy, so he goes and talks to her and it's like, look, I'll get you to Bonnie and you can have a kid. And then of course they find the little girl that was crying, and then it was just that moment. It was like you kind of just know, like So I thought that was really cool, and they that ends up working out, and Gabby ends up finding her way. Which now I think about, that couldn't be a post credit sequence because she does end up finding a kid and she's gone. So yeah, it was like that's cool. It was a nice little way to sympathize with the villain, where it's like all she wanted was to have what Woody's had, his entire existence. So I thought that was really cool, and they allow you to sympathize with the characters. I guess the dummy, who left wants a dummy, so the dummies just get left behind, and that's all. That's all there is to it for them. They just get left behind. Speaking of random toys getting left behind, Duke Kaboom, Keanu Reeves, hilarious. So I love that for sure. Him hitting his head at the end, where he's like, I can do it with my eyes closed, and they're like, what? And he just goes through and it's for Renault. But it was so funny to me. I love that. He was like, they talked about Boxing Day, which I thought was great. It was like, it's the best Boxing Day ever. And, the Evel Knievel commercials and stuff like that. For anyone who's not familiar, the, Evel Knievel stunt bike toys, which it was the same thing. They do those little edits and he hits that ramp and he falls like straight down, but then they cut it and it's like, wow, Evel Knievel, he's flying 15 feet. He can't do any of that crap. Like, those toys sucked. And that's exactly what happened. And it was a commercial, and it was like, Dude Kaboom. He was just stuck, and that was all there was to it. So he was funny. Keanu was just, this is the year of Keanu for sure. Games, movies, Netflix movies, theatrical movies, everything. Like, Keanu's all over the place right now. But really funny character. Definitely loved that. And him hitting his head at the end, I just thought was so funny, because it was like, oh man, it's like his big moment where he's gonna make it. But it almost even made more sense that he did hit his head. Like, he just hits his head on the glass, and then he gets out, it's like kaboom, because it's like he's a stunt cycle. So even if he crashes, that's kind of the point, is that he always works. So thought that was really funny. So love that character. Loved all the other new characters. The Key and Peele thing, where they're constantly trying to attack people. I was cracking up. Honestly, I thought it was funny at first, because I'd seen the one where they attacked the woman, and I didn't realize that was going to keep going, because I saw that in the trailer. And I thought that was super funny. And then they do the story where it's like she takes a shower, she eats and stuff, and then they like rise up and attack her. But the one at the end of the movie where they like start shooting laser beams and they chase the guy down, I was laughing so hard when that happened, because I was like, I don't understand what's happening right now. And then they start just growing and shooting laser beams and breathing fire, and I was laughing so freaking hard when that happened, because I was like, this is just, I just didn't think they were going to take it that far. I was like, oh, they're just going to attack, they're going to say, like, let's attack the guy. But then it's like they had laser beams and stuff, and I was just like, this is funny. It was just too funny to me. So I love that one for sure. They also threw in the Keanu Reeves whoa at the end, because when he asked the guy, he was like, do you really have laser beams? He's like, yeah. And he's like, whoa. And that's literally like how they end that first extra credit sequence. And I thought that was funny. I was like, they totally did that on purpose. Like, we got to get a Keanu whoa in there somewhere. And they threw it in like right at the end. So I love that. But definitely enjoyed the movie. Love getting to see all the characters, and even though it was mostly Woody's journey, I still think it made sense for it to be like, they're going after Bo Peep. And that's what they had said when they like first announced the movie. It was like, it's them finding Bo Peep again. I was like, okay, it's going to be Woody's journey. Like, and that just makes the most sense. But I love the way it played out. I love the movie as a whole. Definitely funny. Of course, had the emotional beats, specifically towards the end, I would say, more than anything else. The beginning I thought was really good too. I thought that was a nice little emotional thing where they kind of like go through the span of time and transition from like the end of Toy Story 3 to all the toys with Bonnie and stuff, and they of course use Woody to do it, and then it's like transitioning to him being in the closet because she's more interested in Jessie, because of course she's a girl. So I thought that was really cool too. Like, I liked the opening. I was like, oh, that's it was like a pretty emotional opening when they get to that, where it's, you go through all the movies and stuff. And I was like, that was actually really good. I thought that was a really well done opening too. But loved the movie. Of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about it. The fourth, possibly final, seemingly final, which is what we mostly thought, with the third movie as well. But the seemingly last Toy Story movie, I would love to know what you guys thought about it. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And I would love to know if you thought this movie was a good addition to the trilogy, making it a decent quartet, or if you thought it was unnecessary. Like, technically unnecessary, but I think it was so well done. Like I said, for me personally, I still think I might enjoy this one more than I did even the second movie, and that was before they even made the third. So it was like, I think that speaks to itself, for me at least, where it's like, definitely worth having a fourth movie, because I think I liked it more than, at least one of the movies that came before it. So I thought it was a good addition. I don't know if we're going to get more shorts. I don't know if we're going to see some shorts of, Woody and the crew kind of helping toys out of the carnival and stuff like that. See the toys back home, which, like I said, probably in those post-credit sequences, which I wish I saw. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they do with it. If they're going to continue on and just do shorts, I think that would be cool. But if they somehow manage to do it, I feel like with it being Toy Story, they wouldn't do it unless they were sure that it was going to work. Because just like with this, where it was like, no one would be like, why would we need a 4th movie? Same now, why would we need a 5th one? But if they can find a way to make it work, then okay. I don't really see how. Like, you can't bring another character back unless they brought Andy back and he was like, give me my toys. I don't think that'll happen. So I don't know what they would do. It would be like Andy. That would actually, that's what they would do. If they did a fifth movie, it would be Woody finds Andy again, and he would probably end up choosing to leave the life of not being, a lost toy, and he would probably go back to Andy towards the end. But Andy wouldn't realize it was the same one because he wouldn't have the string and stuff. He'd be like, oh, it's like a different one, but then he'd see Bonnie's name on the bottom, unless he scratched them off or whatever. But it would be interesting. I don't know. Whatever they would do, or whatever they are going to do, they're going to do, because Disney has the money to do whatever the heck they want. But see how it plays out. Like I said, I would love to know what you guys thought about the movie, and if there was another one, what do you think the story would be? Would you want it to be another one? Was this too much? Did they go a little bit too far with even making a fourth one? So we'd love to know your thoughts on all of that, so please put your comments down in the comment section below, and of course, thanks for watching.